Imagine a jet so secret that for 10 whole years it existed only in the darkness. No photos, no reports, no confirmation. A jet the US government denied again and again, even while it was flying deep inside enemy territory. A jet so strange, so unnatural, that people who saw it didn't think it was an aircraft. They thought it was a UFO. This machine didn't fly like a normal plane. It slipped through radar like a ghost, struck its target with perfect accuracy, and vanished back into the night without leaving a trace. This is the F-117 Nighthawk, an aircraft created in such extreme secrecy that even its pilots lived double lives, their families not knowing what they truly flew. And today, we're going to reveal the secrets behind the world's first operational stealth jet, how it was built, why it was hidden, and why, even after retirement, it continues to appear in places it should not be. If you think you know this jet, you don't, because its real story is darker, deeper, and far more mysterious than anything the world was ever allowed to see. Birth of stealth, a plane that shouldn't have been possible. When the first operational F-117s were built, they were stationed far from public view at a remote base near Tonopah, Nevada. The group assigned to fly them, the 4,450th Tactical Group, operated with an unusual level of discretion. Pilots trained mostly at night, lifting off from isolated runways and vanishing into the dark desert skies. During daylight hours, they flew older A-7 Corsair jets so that their real work remained unnoticed. Life for these pilots was unique. They had to keep their professional activities extremely limited in conversation, even with their own families. Their real aircraft could not be mentioned publicly, and the details of their training were known only to a small number of personnel. Before the F-117 was acknowledged to the world, it had already flown numerous missions that were never publicized at the time. People occasionally reported seeing unusual angular shapes in the skies over various regions, but official statements offered no confirmation. In 1983, when an aircraft on a training flight came down near Bakersfield, California, observers described an unfamiliar dark-colored jet unlike anything they had seen before. Authorities quickly secured the scene, removed debris for analysis, and released the simple explanations a military aircraft had experienced an accident. For years, that was all anyone knew, until the program was finally revealed, and the world learned that stealth technology had quietly taken its first steps into aviation history. The public reveal: a ghost steps into the light. After nearly a decade in darkness, the US government finally admitted in 1988 that the F-117 existed, but even then, it offered only a single grainy photo. The aircraft's sharp geometry made it look impossible to fly, yet those strange angles were exactly what made it nearly invisible to radar. The public saw very little, but inside the Pentagon, the jet was already being prepared for war. In 1989, during the invasion of Panama, the Nighthawk carried out its first confirmed combat strike, but it was during the 1991 Gulf War that the F-117 truly became a legend. On the first night of Operation Desert Storm, Nighthawks slipped into Iraqi airspace protected by the densest radar and air defense system in the world. They destroyed critical command centers and heavily defended targets with precision bombs, while enemy radar showed almost nothing. Missiles fired blindly into empty sky as the invisible jets came and went without a scratch. For a period during the war, pilots of the F-117 accounted for less than 3% of the coalition's aircraft, yet struck nearly 40% of the high-value targets. The Nighthawk became famous without ever being fully understood. The mysterious downing of Vega 31, the legend of the F-117, was built on invisibility, a jet that could fly into the most dangerous airspace in the world and emerge untouched. But on the night of March the 27th, 1999, that legend was shaken. An F-117, Nighthawk, codenamed Vega 31, vanished from radar and then appeared again as burning debris falling from the sky over Serbia. How could the world's most secret aircraft be shot down? The official story is vague. Serbian air defenses claimed they outsmarted the jet by using old Soviet radars, operating them at lower frequencies to detect the F-117's stealthy silhouette. They waited with incredible patience, predicting the same flight route the Nighthawk had flown on previous missions. And when Vega 31's bomb bay doors opened, momentarily breaking its stealth, they fired. A Russian-built Sa-3 missile streaked upward and found a target it was never supposed to see. But that explanation only raises more questions. Why was the jet flying the same predictable route? Why didn't support aircraft detect the radar locks earlier? And why did the enemy turn on their radar at the exact right moment? Some in NATO quietly whispered the darkest theory: someone leaked information. that there were eyes and ears inside the Alliance feeding details to those hunting the Nighthawk. When the wreckage hit the ground, villagers rushed to the scene before American forces could. Cameras flashed. Soldiers collected pieces not to return them, but to study them. Stealth coding, internal structure, wiring, materials the US had spent billions to keep hidden were now lying in a muddy Serbian field. Soon, reports surfaced that some of those fragments traveled far from the Balkans to Moscow, to Beijing, into the hands of rival stealth programs that would emerge years later with suspicious design similarities. The US acknowledged the loss, honored the pilot who survived, but they never gave the full explanation. Not then. Not now. Even today, more than 2 decades later, many documents about the shootdown of Vega 31 remain sealed, classified, untouched. The first and only stealth jet lost to enemy fire is a reminder that no secret is forever, and that even a ghost in the sky leaves a trace. If someone knows exactly where to look, the unexplained retirement and the secret return. Then came the sudden and strange retirement. In 2008, the F-117 was officially taken out of active service, even though many pilots, engineers, and aviation experts believed it still had years, if not decades, of capability left. This wasn't just any aircraft retiring. This was the world's first operational stealth jet, a machine that rewrote the laws of aerial warfare and proved that invisibility in combat was not science fiction. It had slipped through the deadliest air defenses, destroyed high-value targets in the Gulf War, and became the symbol of America's technological edge. Why remove such a legend so quickly? The official explanation was simple, too simple. Newer aircraft like the F-22 Raptor had taken over stealth attack missions. The Air Force said it no longer needed the Nighthawk's razor-sharp edges and radar evading surfaces, but unofficially doubts spread. Some insiders whispered that the aircraft's unique classified systems and mission history still made it too valuable to retire fully. Others believed there was something more, something not being said. And that suspicion only grew when the retirement didn't quite look like a retirement. Almost immediately, strange sightings began. Residents near Tonopah Test Range, the same secret base where the jet was born, reported black, angular silhouettes in the desert sky long after the world was told the F-117 was gone. Photos emerged of Nighthawks flying low over remote valleys, often in pairs, sometimes with chase aircraft escorting them. These weren't isolated mistakes, they were consistent patterns. Finally, in 2020, the US Air Force broke the silence. Yes, the F-117 was still flying. It was being used for training, aggressor roles, and other purposes, with details left deliberately vague. But the acknowledgement raised even bigger questions. Why were dozens of jets kept in fly-ready condition? What missions demanded a stealth aircraft that no longer existed? Some believe the Nighthawk has become a test bed for next-generation stealth coatings, radar, absorbent materials, and infrared signature reduction. Others think it's used to simulate enemy stealth fighters, like China's J-20 giving US pilots realistic combat training. And some suspect the F-117 now lurks in the shadows of classified operations, striking only when deniability is required. Whatever the truth is, one thing is clear: the F-117 Nighthawk refuses to disappear quietly. Even in retirement, it remains what it has always been, a ghost in the night, flying missions that the world is not yet meant to understand. Why the F-117 remains the most mysterious stealth jet ever built. The reason the F-117 remains more mysterious than any other stealth jet is simple. It was never meant to be seen in the first place. Born inside a classified Pentagon initiative known only as Have Blue, the aircraft didn't just hide from radar, it hid from the public as well. For years, the US government denied its existence. Pilots trained in remote deserts under code names, and mechanics worked with technology they could never speak about afterward. The aircraft broke every rule of design. Aerodynamic curves were replaced with razor-like angles. It was unstable by nature, only kept airborne by cutting-edge computers working faster than the human brain. When engineers first looked at its shape, they said this shouldn't fly, but it did, silently, invisibly, becoming the first airplane that could slip into the most heavily defended zones on Earth and leave without a trace. Every detail of the Nighthawk's operations was molded around secrecy. It never deployed in daylight. It launched from hidden bases with no spectators, flying missions that were never acknowledged until long after the bombs hit their targets. Its pilots were ghosts, forbidden to tell even their closest family members what aircraft they flew. Photos were rare, public appearances were non-existent, and then comes the greatest mystery of all, the retirement that didn't happen. Officially, the F-117 was removed from active duty in 2008, but the US didn't destroy the fleet, they preserved it, maintained it, continued to fly it under the cover of night with no public explanation. Sightings became legends. The Air Force eventually admitted the truth. The Nighthawks are still out there, performing missions no one is allowed to discuss. So why does it remain in the shadows? Because the story of the F-117 is still being written. Because stealth, true stealth, is not meant for daylight. And because the Nighthawk continues to guard secrets that the world is not ready to learn. In the end, the greatest mystery of the F-117 is not where it came from, but where it still goes when the sun goes down.